Okay, so I was thinking about if I even wanted to make this and like how I'd even really put it all together. But I'm gonna start this off by saying that one, I just watched a video that reminded me of like the whole thing with how pepsin and butane HCl can like make it harder for you to really like try the highest dosage possible that you may need. I don't even think I really said that how I was supposed to, but like people say that typically you're supposed to be able to go up to 5. I can really just do 1 and like 3 max, but that's if I have like enough food, or more so like meat, which I typically don't eat a lot of meat because one, just things in my situation, but just knowing I couldn't really break that down or break down fat and protein, although I feel like I'd maybe do a better job with that than like fruits or vegetables, or more so vegetables. But anywho, before I go off on a rant, I completely forgot about the whole situation where I did try once a hypoallergenic butane HCl that didn't have pepsin, and I was in so much pain. I don't know what happened. I forgot all about that till like literally just now after listening to that video, and it made me think that I want to try again, not gonna lie. It might have been like the type that I tried. Ow, crap. I accidentally bit my tongue earlier. I think my BS had got way too low, and that's a really common thing. And then like I just get way too excited about like eating stuff, like as if I've been starving for like 5 months or something, and then I chew way too fast and it just causes all types of chaos. And I think it's deep, but I can't tell. But it's not even in the front, it's like near the back, but it feels weird. I wonder what it looks like, but I don't think I want to know. So yeah, I may have a little bit more trouble talking than usual because it kind of hurts. But what was I about? Oh yeah, but I was gonna say though that like I know that if anybody even pays attention to like the videos that I make, that I put in the how to know if you have mitochondrial dysfunction playlist, or generally my videos about me solving my iatrogenic chronic illness, I know how people are like in person, not like really now, but more so like I would say like manipulative people. Like I noticed with like Jezebelic house niggers and like the white supremacists, there's always like some weird views that some of them will have on that. Like for example, med professionals, even though if it wasn't for them I wouldn't have got sick. Now I talk about all the things with the medical gaslighting in how to know if you have mitochondrial dysfunction videos, playlist videos, or I think I do in most of them. But just like a lot of the mind games I've gotten around that. And so the point I'm getting at is that like I know that a lot of people, when they hear me even talking about curing or even managing like my chronic illness, it's just kind of like, okay, so the crazy uneducated, homeless, runaway, traumatized black kid with no credentials, and those types of people, they love to do the whole wear your credentials at bull crap, even over stupid stuff that really should just be obvious, that I feel like people ought to know anyways. And so like I feel like people are really like missing my points. I'm really trying to like talk with like one side of my tongue right now, but it's not working. But it's like I really do want people to like at least kind of listen to what I'm saying. Now of course, I mean, well, I'm sure everybody already knows that like I'm not a doctor or anything anyways, But it's like, I feel scared thinking about the people that have even half the issues I had or more, and are sitting around listening to like abusive people around them gaslighting them about their health issues. Like, I mean, I'm still underweight, but like, I remember when I first okay, wait a minute, I don't really want to like go back over things I already talked about, but I'm pretty sure I talked about in the playlist I mentioned a few times that there's this one point in time when I was 14. I'm not even sure if I was like all the way like full-blown 80 pounds, but well, no, I probably was already, but I don't know. But this was like still before my digestion had actually like got bad and noticeable. This was even before like the IC, the interstitial cystitis had like got crazy, and it was definitely before like the crazy pelvic floor pain and a lot of stuff that I mostly really don't even have anymore. Not anything I just mentioned except the underweight thing. But what I just said, okay, yeah, so this was like, I'm pretty sure I was already definitely 80 pounds, but this was before a lot of other things kicked in, and this was still before like the stomach pain and stuff actually really kicked in. But I did notice that like there's like a lot of like gas type issues I had going on, but it just hadn't got like crazy like it eventually did when I went back with my older neighbor sister, which was living with my mom and stuff. But anywho, or living with my sister and then other relatives. I remember, to get to the point that I mentioned before, I was talking to this old FP that I had at the time. Not gonna go into that. And my hair had just started growing back. It was still like falling out like crazy, but I had a lot of hair, so still like my afro had like came back in. And I had sent her and this other girl that I used to talk to, my old abusive friend Addie, and probably a couple other people, some pictures, and I was like trying to show them my hair, kind of choking. And I remember the FP girl, the first one I mentioned, her name was Jackie. She was like, OMG, you need to eat something. And then I kind of like regretted even sending the picture. It's honestly so funny looking back. Like, I was focused on like the afro, because my hair looked really nice, but like I really like, I wish that I could have like, I would have sent the message on like IG or something, so I could have just deleted the picture and I sent it all together. But yeah, and one thing that I mentioned is that even when I had the type 2 metabolic syndrome weight, I've never been like a really like aware person when it comes to physical looks. Not like I walked around looking like busted and stuff, never that. But when it comes to like how a lot of people are easily like pulled into like beauty agendas, and because like they're really like self-aware of their weight, especially due to like having toxic parents that are like weird and do a lot of covert SA where they constantly like make comments on their weight, or even just stuff for like going to school and getting bullied for whatever. And this is big for boys and girls. People just don't talk about it for boys, but they are starting to talk about something that they're calling bigorexia, and even the looks max and bull crap. But to get back to the point, when I even had the type 2 weight while on the drugs, I didn't even notice that. Like when I got big, I didn't even notice that. It was just like whatever. Like I just didn't even notice a difference. When I became underweight, as I mentioned all the time, I didn't notice that either. In fact, it wasn't even till the whole little few months of school at 16, back with my neighbor sister, my mom, and etc., when I constantly got comments about me being skinny and about people not believing I'm the age I was saying I was, and which is why it's weird that like now that I'm back in the South, people are claiming that they think I'm 38. But I mean, I've always said though, at the end of the day, there's not really such thing as looking age in general. Weight doesn't mean age, and also I'd be extremely small for any age that you could say I am. Like if I was, I'd be small for like a 12-year-old, which obviously I'm not 12, but like, even most like 12 and 11-year-olds and 10-year-olds are like bigger than I am. Obviously that depends on the person, but like most of them are, to be honest. And some of them are even taller than me as well, but the height thing is irrelevant. Although it's better to like be short and underweight than to be tall and underweight, but luckily I'm not that tall. I'm only like 5'0", which I was getting told for years that I was taller, way taller than that, but luckily that's not true. Like I remember all the missing persons reports had the wrong height and weight. And I remember one said that I was like 5'9" or 6 foot. And this one lady who was trying to advocate for me at the time, she was like, if you were 6 foot and 80 pounds, you'd be a stick on the ground. That would be absolutely horrible. But anywho, crap, I think I have back issues. I'd have something worse than degenerative disc disease if that was the case. But anyhow, to get back to the point. So, what I was getting at with that is that, like, crap, what was I getting at with that? Okay, I think I kind of remember now. I feel like even though now, since, like, I'm back in a place where, like, people are used to, like, the normalization of metabolic issues from, like, all the crap in the food and people having chromosome issues and hypothalamus damage and stuff like that they'll never be diagnosed what they're told they have. So I'm back in one of those areas where like a lot of people have metabolic issues where they're underweight or overweight with all the other symptoms that go along with these types of issues, and they're just like being told that like it's whatever. Like there's this one guy who told me that, he's about to be 26, and he would have been small for even like a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, like really, but that was like just really interesting when he had told me that. And I remember he was just like saying, yeah, people are always telling me that I'm lucky that I look young, but it's like, even with what I would always say when people make comments like that for me, like, I don't know if he has any symptoms. I guess not, because he seems to, like, just walk around like la-di-da with the whole situation. But for me personally, I have all types of other side symptoms. Now, of course, I'm way, way better than I was even some months ago. I'm definitely way, like, 3,000 times better than I was, like, before I escaped. And like even before I started like piecing things together and like getting out the gaslighting, and even way before I started like checking my blood sugar by November 2024, and actually found out that I was having blood sugars at 50 like every day, just about all day. Even way before that, just like getting out my previous situation, a lot of things improved. Like I could be wrong, but I think like even before I started taking the HCl and stuff, like my malnutrition had actually supposedly got better, but it's a lot of like bull crap with that and people playing games and the usual medical gaslighting, so I'm not even really sure, but supposedly it had improved pretty decently even before I started like working on things. But anywho, I'm trying to think what else I was going to say with that. But it's like, anywho, I have like all types of symptoms still that go along with the issues, and it's like people, like America putting this like idea in people's head that fat is bad, protein is bad, and having people thinking that walking around looking like sticks is healthy it's always been scary to me, but especially since getting iatrogenic chronic illness, like the weird comments that people make to me and people like me or who look similar to me, I guess I could say, is horrifying. Like now of course some people are just going to be short, but it's like I'm not being rude, I'm just like being honest about the situation, as I always say. But it's like hold up. Okay, so I had to get someone to move because honestly, not like a lot of people, but like 2 people have kind of been like, I guess they found my spot, and it's just like but also that person was in like a terrible spot because people pee there sometimes, and I've been meaning to tell like both of these people that, but I kept forgetting. But anywho, so yeah, what was I even saying? I think I was talking about how like America started pushing this fat is bad thing to the masses globally, like nationally, and it's put a lot of weird stuff in people's heads. Like I even once had this Asian nurse lady ask me, how did you get your arms this skinny? I would have to do a lot of work to get my arms that skinny. And it was just like such a really weird comment and really also upsetting. And then like I even had a girl with an ED, which was given to her because of the Cash for Kids system, making her obese and then bullying her for being obese. But then, yeah, I talk about all that in my video titled Psychotropic Weight Gain is Diabetes. I think that's what it's titled. Or some of that situation I talk about it. But I remember she had told me that I was a goal. And to be truthfully honest, like, it still wasn't even until very recently where I really like started to think more about the whole being underweight thing. It's actually kind of funny because I don't even get comments about it where I'm at now. I mean, aside from the what was I calling her, the Miss S, the quote-unquote real woman of God lady that I talk about in the part 1 and part 2 cycles of life, where I talk about the Miss S and J situation. I know one time she was like, I can tell by your weight that you're sickly, so obviously the Lord's been what'd she say, he's been holding on to or something, which I mean, yeah, that's definitely true. And then one of the Chomo sex preg guys said like a month or so ago at the soup kitchen, in his usual like schizonarc mumble rants that he goes on to the air, where he's like very obviously talking about people, but like he'll look at people and then look away, and he goes on these like little rants that these types of people go on. But anywho, he just kept saying like something about me getting my weight up, and it's often hard to really tell exactly what he's saying. It's like you can hear, I guess he kind of talks like me, to be honest. You can understand some of it, but then it's kind of like, I don't know, I think like when he starts to say stuff that he really knows he shouldn't be saying to people, then he gets a little bit more quiet. I think that's what it is, because he's also always talking about how people want somebody to feel bad for them, and people need to get a job, but it's like he goes on those rants when I'm around because he's mad that I won't get with him. But anyways, other than that, I haven't even had anybody like make any comments about my weight since I've been where I'm at. But when I went to my little 3 months of school, and when I was in Cali, this was like a constant discussion. And like there's even often a lot of insults. And then I feel like, of course, like I talk about what I like to call the Caucasian addict projection. Being in places like Cali, people's minds are like, so they revolve around meth, heroin, and fetty, and a whole bunch of stupid stuff. And it's like, well, crap, you're saying that I'm supposedly on that stuff, and that's why I have the symptoms I do. But crap, the people who are actually on that stuff, they're healthier. A lot of them are healthier than I am. Like 6 packs, triceps, biceps, 8 packs, 80-year-old women on all 3 of those, and then some, and they have 6 packs and stuff, which that situation was still very interesting to me. But I mean, of course, like, those are like real deal, like outdoor livers, as I guess I could call them. Like where I'm at now, a lot of people, they don't really want to do the whole living outside. I mean, not that people generally wanted to, but like they tried their best to be in like shelters or anything close to it. But like in Cali, I mean, of course there's going to be like homeless 80-year-old women, which is horrible anyways, but of course they're going to have like 6 packs and like arms that look like bodybuilders because they're like living in the woods, building huts and stuff and carrying stuff and walking around all day. But there's a lot of other comments that I could probably mention, but I don't really remember them. That's probably a good thing. But it's like, there's like the good comments and the bad ones, but then there's the whole, well, you're fine thing. But anywho, going back to the whole thing with the dude though, so actually I think that's where I was last at before like I got sidetracked because of someone walking too close. I think I was actually saying that like a guy is almost 26. He's probably 80 pounds himself or something close to that, maybe a little bit more. I'm 5'0", but I'm pretty sure he's shorter than I am. So like really like skinny and stuff, and just like really small in general. I would say that's probably a birth issue though, because I've also seen his mom before, and I know that like you can be like born with hypothalamus issues and the thyroid stuff that goes along with that and all that stuff. Wait a minute, hold up. Okay, got sidetracked again. But crap. But yeah, I remember like he was telling me that people say that it's a blessing and that crap. It's a blessing and what was I even saying before all the bullcrap background noise? He's gonna look young forever, and when he really gets old, he's gonna still look young. But I mean, it's really interesting, like being back in places where like being like visibly unhealthy, or just like having maybe like some chromosome or whatever type issues, hypothalamus damage, whatever, is considered like looking like young and healthy. I mean, it's possible to like look young and healthy, but then it's kind of like some actor dude or something that I seen like a clip of on YouTube. I don't know what his name was, but he didn't look like skinny and scrawny. Like, he didn't look like physically sick, but it's very obvious that like maybe he had like some type of testosterone or chromosome or something issue, and people are like he sounded 30 at 60 and he looked 16 at 20 or something like that. Which, to be truthfully honest, you really can't necessarily even tell somebody who's a teenager from somebody in their 20s, and this can depend on the person, but generally I feel like that can be so blurred anyways, and a lot of the ideas of looking at age are really bullcrap. I still remember getting like weird comments when I was in Alabama for 2 weeks, and I remember one person told me that I don't even have like the bone structure of like a teenager and some other weird stuff. But I mean, I could get what they mean, but all that stuff is still like really weird. Then he said something about me supposedly not having adult teeth, but he was really just paranoid at that point. And you're supposed to have all your adult teeth by 12, so I mean, shoot, if I didn't have those, I would really have some issues going on. But I'm trying to think of what else I could say. Crap. Oh yeah, but like another thing, going into the point more, people have been so like brainwashed into people have been so brainwashed into thinking that having body fat and muscle is a bad thing by the American medical system, that people don't even acknowledge or know about all of the health issues that actually go along with being underweight. Not to mention the fact that being underweight and being overweight comes from the same general health issues, metabolic issues, mitochondrial dysfunction, and all the other causes. In fact, being underweight is actually on the worst end of the spectrum, and bigger people are typically more metabolically healthy. Like, I have worse blood sugar swings, and I probably wouldn't even be able to have crashes as bad as I do if I actually had like body fat. I would say that like the reason that my weight has went up from like being 80 pounds on the dot like it was before I had ran away, but like I would say the only reason it's really went up the little bit it has is because one, there's actually like food in my stomach, and then two, I developed calves from all the walking around I've had to do. But as far as like the arm muscle, that really never ended up working out. I wasn't really able to like, not that I mean it's like I feel like it's kind of unproportionate anyways, because it's kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like really unproportionate. I'm not even gonna really try to explain that. But anywho, crap. The point is, and then another thing that like can happen is brain shrinkage can go along with being underweight. I mean, crap, not even to mention the brain shrinkage from the iatrogenic effects. Organ shrinkage, stomach shrinking, which actually reminds me of something else I forgot to say, going back to the HCl thing. Now, I don't know when I would actually be able to riskily try using hypoallergenic HCl without pepsin again, but as I kind of already mentioned, as far as like the betaine HCl with pepsin, I think another reason why I can't take as much as like other people claim that they're taking is because I'm just like really small and stuff, and I'm sure that like I had a lot of stomach shrinkage and all types of stuff from like the different things with my health throughout the years. So I feel like that's another reason why I can't like take these large amounts of HCl that like a lot of other people are claiming that they're taking. Honestly, I'm not even sure I could eat the amount of food that I would probably need to eat to be taking like these 5 and 7 and stuff capsules. And I wouldn't even want to do that because for one, like it's a miracle that I'm even able to like get some more of the HCl, the enzymes, and now the oxybol again when I run out. Or really the last time I didn't have oxybolos because all my stuff got stolen by a cat, a raccoon, and a possum on Thanksgiving night. But anywho, to get back to the point. So, like, taking that much, I mean, I would just run out so quickly. Because it's like you already have to take, like, multiple in a day unless you only eat, like, one time a day. So that's just, like, I don't know what in the world people have going on. I couldn't even really imagine, like, that's a lot of food I guess people are eating. But I would want to see, like, if I could get better effects if I could figure out the hypoallergenic. But I completely forgot all about that, and, like, that was crazy. And it's so funny because it's supposed to be the hypoallergenic, but evidently it was very allergenic for me. Or whatever the heck happened. But I don't really remember much about that situation, even though it's just like a couple months ago. Because like I said, I had forgot completely about the fact that the whole thing even happened to watching a video that mentioned the the HCl without pepsin. But anyhow, I've been thinking like more about the weight thing. Like, oh yeah, I forgot to say, which I thought about this even way back when, like how my spine issues, they wouldn't be what they are, and even the pain when sitting down as well, but especially like the spine and joint and bone issues in general, obviously without the malnutrition and the other side things, like they wouldn't even exist. But like if I actually like really had body fat, then my joints and my spine and stuff would be cushioned, and they'd also have like I forgot what it's called, but like it just like the DDD or the supposed degenerative disc disease that I would definitely say I've had since 12. Not that I really want to claim that, because it's still kind of like because I mean, is that really why like the what was it again, the bumps and lumps and stuff and all the pain was there? Because I mean, I even feel like I can't remember if it's osteoporosis, but whichever one where like when something gets injured, it like makes more cartilage or tissue or whatever to try to like protect the area. Like if I actually had like body fat, then the areas wouldn't be injured so easily from like me just doing basic things like laying and sitting down, to where I wouldn't develop these lumps and bumps and all this crazy stuff. Also from the blood sugar issues, which is kind of a side thing. It wouldn't happen because they'd be cushioned, and they wouldn't have to like start trying to develop their own cushioning that causes more issues. But that's a long story, but I don't really have any of that anymore. But it got like really, really bad when I was bent on a hill. But I even remember like when I was 12 and stuff, like wondering how normal it was to not be able to look down or to the left and right. And that's but that's like neck stuff though. But all that goes hand in hand, the neck and the spine obviously. But that whole being bent on the hill thing and like getting those really bad lumps, that's what really, really made the whole thing noticeable. And then wearing a book bag at some points in times during that whole thing, like really set the whole thing off, and then it was like impossible to ignore. And that's when there was the whole thing with like the homeless doctor program, and me like still a lot of gaslighting from like most of those people, but I had like a lot of swollen somethings like going all down my spine. And I know like I still have one that's very noticeable in the coccyx. I think that's what it's called, because like I can feel it when I sit down. So that was all really interesting. But I even remember this one point in time a year ago where like I went back through some of my old abuse evidence videos looking for something, and I ended up coming across a couple videos where I mentioned back pain and stuff, and how like mattresses hurt really bad, and even then I would have to like sleep on a flat surface like on the floor, because when I did have a mattress it just hurt really, really bad. But of course, like, that's one of the things about the gaslighting though, and I could also say a lot about that. I've been thinking about how I really need to get like another finger prick whenever I get the money, like the finger prick glucose meter. That stuff is just really expensive. But the thing about it is that like I got so much gaslighting about these issues that I sometimes still forget like I really need to check my blood sugar, like this is really an issue. And it's so funny, but I really do wonder how high my blood sugar used to be back when I was getting told that I had the high A1C and the hemoglobin issues while on the drugs, and I had the type 2/metabolic syndrome weight. And I really do wonder how low it used to be when the whole thing happened at 16, where doctors and GA finally asked why I was 80 pounds, and then like after that, of course, it's never been like really that cared about. But when I was in North Carolina, that's where I was actually at when I dropped down to 80 pounds and started to. They never mentioned that, like they never mentioned anything. And I remember like I was watching this video a few days ago, and this lady was talking about how she got from like being pretty underweight to at least like 96 pounds while having Crohn's. And she talked about how she just kept getting told the whole eat more calories thing. And I know in one of my videos in the playlist, I talk about how I went through something somewhat similar to that, except the doctors were just saying, oh, well, it's just because your mom this and your mom that. And I've been thinking a lot more about how, like, kind of like in that recent post I made, or the post before last, I think, like, I talk about how in the human cash cow systems, the mandated reporters are there to side with your abusers because it's their job, but they're also overall there to side with themselves as well. Because of course, I mean, at the end of the day, they also like abuse you themselves. But even on like a side note, they're really there to side with themselves. And I think more and more about how like the medical system and people in these like human cash cow systems, and just people in general, they just are how they are. And when you're in certain situations, they can like try to blame it on something else. I've been thinking more about how like they kept doing the whole your mom excuse. But it's like, that's not a reason for why. For one, I mean, if it wasn't for, well, the doctors and ANC, because they started the whole thing, if it wasn't for the medical system and of course the rest of the human cash cow systems, I wouldn't have got sick anyways. But you can't really just do the whole your mom this and your mom that as an excuse for why they didn't like do anything about Jack, because they didn't care. But anywho, they just said that they felt like I was just getting starved and sodomized and stuff at home. Luckily I wasn't getting sodomized, and that and then they just did the whole, well, you need to eat more calories and eat more peanut butter. You're getting starved at home. See you in 6 months. And I talk about how I had a notebook, like, where I would just, like, keep track of what I ate and the calories and try and do as close to, like, 3,000 calories a day. And I did that from till... I threw the notebook away in, like, November 2024, I believe. And that's when I was also in that little, I wanted to try the carnivore diet, so I riskily agreed to go to that toxic youth, what was it called? Host family bullcrap thing that I mentioned more in depth. The only video where I really talked about it, I think, in my recent video titled, Get Your Crap Together Until They Say No, or something like that. And the thumbnail is about, the situation where a lady asked me what type of work have I done before, and I told her, like, about the basic electrical, because that was the most recent, and she just laughed and said, who had you playing with wires? That was a little while ago. But anyways, that video, I talk about the situation more a while into that one, because it's an hour plus long. But, like, what was I saying again? Oh, yeah, but up until, like, a little before right before I had, left that lady's vegan cult house, I had had that notebook, and it's kind of like that advice was dangerous for so many reasons. I had so many bacterial overgrowths. I couldn't digest food at all. One, I was being encouraged to eat things that not only I couldn't digest, but they were giving me more blood sugar spikes and crashes, that's another thing that apparently can also keep me from being able to gain weight. So I'm still thinking about, like, how I could try to, like, figure something out with getting blood sugar under control. But, like, I don't even really have, like, spikes like that, I feel, which I kind of went over in my 2 recent videos titled Clinical Trial CGM, Clinical Trial something. I just have, like, lows. But then there's also, like, just a huge dysautonomia / POTS type side from the iatrogenic hypothalamus dysfunction, which also mimics, like, some neurological blood sugar type symptoms, but that's kind of a side thing. But anyhow, like, I've been thinking about how, like, maybe somehow getting my blood sugar under control could also help with gaining weight. But it's like, if I could figure out how to gain weight, that's, like, just another big piece to the puzzle. And it's kind of like, what was I gonna say? Like, that calorie counting thing, for one, that actually gives people EDs. And then 2, if you can't digest food, you have issues where, like, eating hurts, which also probably means that you really can't digest food anyways, and your intestines are inflamed, and you probably have all types of SIBO and LIBO and just BOs in general, which is bacterial overgrowths, small intestinal and large intestine. That's just, like, there's so many issues with that, and it's so dangerous, because I was being conditioned to try to eat more things that I couldn't eat, which would also just keep me underweight, among other things. But it's like, the weight gain thing is a big piece of the puzzle, and it's like, it's funny how now I'm thinking more about the whole weight thing, and I think that also has something to do because, wait a minute, I think that, was that coming out right? I think it also has something to do with, like, me focusing on things that really shouldn't even matter, but, like, even though I feel like I really hate the idea of dating and stuff, I think it's also kind of like, I don't know, just when I think about like that, I become more self-aware about that. And even just like with all the like health stuff that goes along with it, like I mean with the metabolic issues and the blood sugar issues, even when my blood sugar isn't low, since I can't make energy, and I don't have like the fat thing may not have much to do with this, but like muscle and stuff, like it's just still really hard to like lift basic things. And it's like, I mean, as I mentioned in my mitochondrial dysfunction playlist videos, going from somebody that was climbing trees all day and rope swinging and like just doing all types of stuff. Like when I was 12, I could pick up my mom and my dad and other people at least like a good couple inches off the ground. Like, and when I say this, I know it's weird in general, but it's just like true. And I was doing that at 12. Going from that, and that was also before the type 2 metabolic syndrome, before the drugging thing. And even in the early parts of that, before like I got really fatigued and stuff and just really sick. Going from that to at one point before running, not being able to push a chair under a desk, not being able to lift a book, barely being able to lift a water bottle and stuff like that. Which of course, I mean, I'm not that anywhere near that bad anymore, but I'm still like extremely weak. Like I even think about with the situation I'm in, like I used to fight boys and grown men at 12 and stuff, but it's like now, if push really was to come to shove and I was to have to fight somebody, especially with like the whole situation of being homeless since escaping my abuse, like how would that even really go if I really was to have to fight somebody? And there were like no stick, no nothing. That's not bound to work out. Not being somebody who can still barely lift some books, and I'm just still like really, really weak. And it's still crazy to think about, like, crap, I was stronger at 6 and 7 years old than I am now. And it's still definitely something to think about. And so it's like, I've came a long way. I still do think about like all the things that I used to have that I no longer have, because it's still like just so much progress that I've made. But I may be like rushing the process, and I know that a lot of people, when I talk about it, they just may not even want to say anything because it just sounds so magical thinking-y, I guess I could say. And so like well, yeah, I guess that's the only term I can really think of with that, because like I know a lot of people will be like, well, I mean, you think you'll be able to fix this, and you're just like trying to make yourself feel better about the situation by telling yourself that you can fix it. And then of course, like I was already mentioning with the whole the house nigger and white supremacist Jezebelic mindsets that a lot of people have. I mean, I'd just come off as like the homeless, uneducated black kid that thinks I know something. And even before I was homeless, when I was trying to figure this out, and I was living with relatives, it's just like people would do the usual. I hate when people say this, along with the whole help thing. You need to advocate for yourself, and if something really happens, it's going to be your fault, because it doesn't matter what your mom says and who says what. You need to advocate for yourself, because you could possibly die, and you need to talk them into giving you an endoscopy and all these other tests. You need to force them to do it, and it's like, I can't force or make anybody do anything. And then it's like, some of that stuff could possibly cost money, but aside from that, like, I can't force anybody to do anything. And if I have to force and beg somebody to do something like that while I'm walking around with 50 blood sugar, 80 pounds, and falling asleep standing up with pelvic floor pain and all the stuff that I used to have going on, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if I have to force and beg them to do basic stuff, then it sounds like I don't need to be like going to them and begging and listening to them or trying to get advice from them anyways. And it horrifies me that there's people sitting around with those issues and worse, and then some, still in the process of begging. Like, I mean, would I, like, especially with like all the walking around that I have to do while homeless, like, would I even still be alive if I was like, well, crap, even if I wouldn't have ran away, would I even still have been alive with the level of malnutrition I had, because I couldn't digest food and I had all types of bacterial overgrowth, which, as I talked about in my mitochondrial dysfunction playlist, I cured all that with animal meds, actually dog meds. And it was like on a whim of faith, I guess I could call it. I don't know. And it worked. I went from being in constant pain, feeling like there was... I went from being in constant pain and feeling like there was like a war and a domestic dispute going on inside of my stomach to not having any of that pain at all anymore. And that's like one thing I really think about a lot though. And it's also kind of like, I know this just like goes over people's heads and some people just may not believe it anyways, but it's like, I can say that I am and should be proud of myself, probably even 1,000 times more than I am for even doing the research, but I also kind of feel like I don't know how I could have not done it. I don't know how some people are sitting around in these amounts of pain and more, or in general, and not like doing the research. And I know that that's also why like people can easily get manipulated into the whole the pain med bullcrap with big pharma. None of that stuff is for me, and those things never worked on me anyways. Because I remember when I was in the ER once after the whole thing with the tonsil surgery, they were giving me some oxycodone and stuff, and none of that stuff was working anyways. But I have a high pain tolerance, luckily as well. But anyhow. So, yeah, like, that's something that I've really been focused on, and I guess people, I don't like when people try to make me feel like it's some type of like insecurity thing, but that's also kind of the bad thing about being in an area where people are used to like people just being like sick and scrawny and stuff. Like I've even been thinking about like the white supremacist jokes about like the skinny black kid with their ribs showing, but what people also don't say about that, I mean a lot of people are skinny these days to be honest, but what people also don't say about that is that that's also like metabolic issues from like the diet, like the stereotypical like skinny black boy with his ribs showing that eats ramen noodles and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, stuff like that. Ramen noodles is a horrible food for like causing metabolic issues as well. But I used to eat them because I had to, but like I can't even eat that without losing my vision just about for a couple of days. Not that I have in well over a year. I forgot why I couldn't eat it, because I remember like someone was giving some out when I was in Oregon last year, and I forgot why I couldn't eat it, and I was like, crap. I swear I stopped eating this, but I can't remember why. It's scary how many people like have serious like memory issues these days, and I'm sure it's all for similar reasons, but anywho. I cooked it and I tried it out, and then I couldn't see jack really, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why. And I had to take Ivor horse paste or either the dog Paracleanse, and I don't know what it is, but some mechanism in that does something to where my vision comes back, but like I couldn't see jack. It causes like a crazy blood sugar spike for me, and like I still do wonder like how much of that is like the metabolic issue side and how much is like leaky gut, because I know like with leaky gut, like there's so much like a not tears, but like there's some like kind of like the microscopic colitis type stuff. It's like microscopic, like I guess I could say tears or whatever, and so toxins and sugar and whatever else can get into the bloodstream faster, and I feel like it has to have something to do with that as well. Like with the enzymes that can also make it worse, but I mean, like I wouldn't take something like that with that anyways, but it's like without the HCl or the enzymes, just like eating something like that and having like a crazy blood sugar spike to the point that I can't see, I feel like that has to have something to do with the fact that due to leaky gut, the sugar is just getting into my bloodstream way quicker and easier than it should be able to. But of course I don't eat stuff like that anyways. But I even think about like all the stuff that I had to eat that I never liked anyways, that was especially dangerous to me. Like when I really started to get sick, like I remember the little 3 months of school I went to, I was super hungry. I was eating the breakfast and it had me in so much pain. That was also because of the low HCl and lack of pancreatic enzymes and bile flow and all types of stuff. But it was also pancakes, and it's like also with the bacterial overgrowth, the sugar feeds them. So like eating sugar, eating anything, but sugary stuff, like it would just cause even more pain, and it was just like a lot of crazy stuff with that. And then recently I finally figured out the correct oxbal timing, which is also like a really good thing. Like due to the slow gut motility, it was hard to get the oxbal timing right, because oxbal is supposed to meet the food in the, I forgot what part, I'm not even gonna lie, but the something colon, the something, the ilia, I don't even remember. But I finally figured out how to get the oxbal timing right, to where it meets the food where it's supposed to, and crazy stuff doesn't happen. And it doesn't seem to like cancel out the HCl almost. And another thing is that like if your stool is yellow and stuff like that, you definitely can't break down fat or protein, and that's bile flow issues. And people said that like one of the first signs of your health getting bad is like changes in like bowel movements and even urine, and that's 100% true. And I think about that a lot, like the past few years with all the research, because like before, like literally before anything else happened, that happened before anything else happened. Like I even think about how like even before the whole thing with the diarrhea, and I still remember that nightmare of a situation when I was in Cali and I would sleep outside this building, and I woke up at 3 a.m. throwing up with diarrhea because I couldn't digest food, the bacterial overgrowth, and the slow gut motility. So like food was still sitting that should have been gone, and I was throwing up all types of stuff. And the only, well, I don't even know, am I about to like incriminate myself? Luckily it was dark, obviously, because it was 3 a.m. and like I had to find a spot, and that was just like not good. And that's not the only situation like that, but that was better than like just walking down the street and then accidentally kind of crapping myself. And that's a part of spastic colon, and it's another thing I forgot the name of. I mentioned in the last two CGM clinical trial videos, I believe, but some type of like muscle colon mechanism that I don't remember the name of that also goes along with that, like how walking helps move the bowels and stuff. But when you have issues like this, that can also mean, oh, you just so happen to like crap yourself walking down the street. I'm really glad I don't have any of that stuff anymore. But yeah, and then I talk about how when I was in Cali, people would always talk about the heroin SHITs, and then of course I was lumped into that category. But it still is like really interesting, like being in an environment like that and getting to see that I have iatrogenic health issues from the quote-unquote safe drugs, but I'm sicker. I have the same issues and then plenty of way worse ones than people who are on the street drugs. And that was just like that was like a really interesting experience. But yeah, crap, I had worse stuff going on than heroin SHITs, but they definitely do get a lot of like similar like digestive and liver and kidney and etc. issues, and even brain damage, obviously. I mean, crap, Adderall is stronger and worse than amphetamines anyways, and it is heroin, crack, meth, etc. But anywho, what was the other thing I was gonna say with that? Oh, I remember what I was getting at. I was talking about the whole stool thing, but before like I had got to that whole diarrhea point, I guess I could call it, and even the throwing up thing, because I was never the type of person for throwing up. And when I started having that, it was just really weird to me, because like even when I was really, really sick, I never threw up. But before that, I had like constipation. I already mentioned the whole gas thing. Like, people try to normalize that, but that's like one of the biggest signs that you have serious digestive issues. Like, since the whole HCl enzymes and the oxbal thing is kind of recent, so that's kind of whatever. But since the HCl and enzymes, I still have the burping thing, but I don't have like all that other stuff anymore. Like, people normalize that so much, and I noticed that like that's really a big thing when people have like the usual processed food, bullcrappy diets. Because like I even think about things with like my siblings and like all the signs that they showed of like just the effects of like these diets. Not that like there's like really options, obviously, but I mean, crap, eating nothing but like ramen noodles and Hot Pockets and stuff. Like, you know, people are taught to like make jokes about having serious digestive issues. And I'm not gonna lie, before like things got like horrible and crazy and I could say even scary, like it was a lot of like jokes about the whole situation, and of course a lot of insults. Like I remember even when I was in the Jim Crow self-confined placement a little before my escape, like since the missing persons report where I tried to sneak to that job interview that day and all the articles were uploaded while I was in the house taking a shower. Oh, that bull crap, that's actually where most of them came from. The Jim Crow self-confined placement staff had saw that, and they were like making fun of me about my weight, and luckily some of the articles said that I weighed more than I did, because I weighed 80, but some of them said 90, 98 and 96, and that's not really much better, but I mean I could wish. But anywho, I remember he was weird and sexual anyways. I remember this one time he was pulling my hair and calling me beautiful, but he was also the nicest, insanest staff in there out of the three. Well, he was one of the three, so out of the other two, which were the female ones. But anyhow, there was a roach in there, and I was stepping on the roach, and it wasn't dying. And then the male staff, he started off the whole convo or insult, and he was like, you should be able to smush it with your 90 pounds or 80 pounds or whatever, 87 pounds. And then like the other staff had like joined in on the bull crap, and it's like, here we go again. And then stuff like that. But it's like, I think people are also so used to like being, in fact, no, this reminds me of wait a minute, hold up. So I remember one of the female staff, she was kind of big, and I remember like one time she was like pretty much talking about she felt like I was like healthier than she was, even though I was like, I am on like the further end of pancreatic burnout, and she had the diabetes or the pre-diabetes label, which if you're getting told you have pre-diabetes, you already have it. And then also a lot of people are diagnosed with that definitely obviously have pancreatic burnout to the point where they're already like really underweight, or they just have type 1 in general, or some other form of diabetes, which the other forms aren't even talked about. The mainstream medical system doesn't even know about or diagnose type 1 like that, to be honest. But anywho, and like that's another thing that you're going to run into a lot. Like people who are on the other end of the spectrum and they're bigger will sometimes feel funny towards you, because of course they're always told you need to be skinny. Being skinny is not healthy. People need to really stop using that term. It's worse than being overweight, to be honest. And this lady, I wouldn't even really, I mean, I guess maybe she could be considered overweight, but I don't know. I don't even really like how a lot of these like the fat and other bullcrap terms are used, because like it's people, kind of like how people say BMI is racist, among other issues with it. There's a lot of issues with it. Like people even talk about the whole skinny fat thing, where like you're skinny, whatever the heck that even really means. But when you're put under some type of test that can like see your body fat, like you have really no muscle mass and you're just like complete fat, but you're skinny, stuff like that. Crap, I don't know. I'm not even sure if I'm even that. Not that I would want to be, but crap. But one thing I can say is that I have calves now, if nothing else. But like, what else was I gonna say with that? But yeah, so I think, yeah, because I talked about the whole thing with the stool signs. That's really something you want to pay attention to. Because like, I mean, crap, like I wish I could have like taken HCl and enzymes like years ago, maybe even while going through the whole drug and abuse. And like, I wonder like, would things have even went how bad they did go? And then like, what else was it? Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about. So I know that people will say things like, well, you can't just go online and just start taking stuff, and supplements are unsafe, and you can't just chamomile tea your way through life. And it's like, well, when people say stuff like this, like what else I mean, I didn't have the options to just go to a doctor anyways, and don't. But it's like, I mean, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even have the issues I have anyway. So it's like, but it's like people say that, but what else in the world are people actually really supposed to do? And as far as the whole chamomile tea, which that was said to me once, I don't even drink tea anyways, really. Kind of can't now at this point, but like, people, like they're put, this stuff is put into their head by the mainstream medical system. Like, I even remember seeing some regular doctor going on this rant about how, I mean, the supplement industry definitely is dangerous. I'm not going to pretend that, like, it can't be, and, like, there isn't a lot of lies out there. Like, I even remember hearing something about some gummies that were supposed to have, like, vitamin D or something like that, but somebody did a test on them, and they didn't have jack that they were supposed to have in there. They were just gummies with, like, nothing. But I don't do that gummy crap anyways. Or the vitamin replacement stuff. In fact, if you're eating right and you can actually digest food, you should be able to get the vitamins you need from the food. So, I mean, with HCl, I wouldn't have to worry about that. But anyhow, because I'm going on a rant again. It's kind of like, that stuff is true, but it's just like how they fearmonger people with the Ivor, can't say the full name, or even how people fearmonger and say, don't take dog hair cleanses and stuff like that, and the different things that people say. But it's kind of like, I mean, especially with like the regular human supplements, I mean, yeah, depending on where you're getting them from, they may like be bull crappy. They may even like have like heavy metals and crap, what's the other thing? They may just like not be third-party testing a lot of things that they're supposed to be, but that's why you have to like really do your research. But overall, like, people can only do but so much, and like, I don't even know what position I would even be in right now if I wouldn't have started like taking my life into my own hands. And that's another thing, people see the mainstream medical system as like a god or something, and that's one of the other very annoying effects of white supremacy and the brainwashing that people are under. Because it's like, at the end of the day, they don't heal or fix you. Definitely not in the mainstream medical system, not usually. And then it's also kind of like, so I'm supposed to ignore my symptoms and go begging and crying to some people that don't give a crap about me, that are weird, sexual, and manipulative and stuff, if I can even afford or manage to get to the doctor anyways. And then, what was I about to say with that crap? I mean, pretty much I'm supposed to, like, go to somebody else about me. And it's all just really crazy. Like, if anybody knows what I need and what I have going on, it should be me. I shouldn't have to go run to some other person to ask them about what's happening, to probably go be told that, it's whatever and I'm fine, and like, crap. Like, I still think about how interesting the whole thing was. And just like somebody said, like, it's shocking to them that I was never given endoscopy or any other testing when I initially dropped from 120 plus pounds to 80. It was shocking to them, just that. And then, of course, like, there were the people that knew about my situation, like, in person, and I seen the evidence videos. But there were also, like, when I was in support groups as well, like, around that time, there's plenty of, there was a couple people that like to do this whole, well, just because you're underage, or just because your mom this, just because that, doesn't mean that, like, you can't get medical treatment. Which actually, I mean, there's a lot of, like, stuff with how the medical system is with gaslighting and racial stuff and the games they play with people in general. But I mean, really thinking back to it, yeah, the whole, well, we can't do this because of your mom this and your mom that and your mom that, those were just excuses. They were always, I mean, I can't think of any time where I went around a PCP, a primary care physician, and they weren't trying to unalive me, to be honest. I still even think back to the whole thing when I was 6 or 7, and I had those swollen lymph nodes on my neck, which I still have, but they've went down a lot in the past few recent years. But I had those 2 swollen lymph nodes on my neck that were, like, so large they could be seen from feet away. Which, of course, like, once I started doing research, after getting out here, I found out, or pieced together, really, that was most likely from mold toxicity, which most buildings have. But they saw that and they were like, well, it's fine, it's whatever, and that's actually signs of so many things. Like, I was never tested for lymphoma or any of those other things, but anywho, like, there's also some other stuff I should have been tested for, but I'm trying to think of what else. But, like, overall, people will try to, like, fearmonger others out of, like, trying to fix things. And I mean, I could see how people could, like, try something and it could go left. But I even think about with HCl. People will think that they're having symptoms because of HCl, but they're having symptoms because they still have a lot of bacterial overgrowth. They may need enzymes as well. They may need oxybol. And just, like, different things that can come up or get worse when you take HCl that seems like it's because of the HCl, but it's not necessarily because of that. Like like if you still have a lot of bacterial overgrowth and you haven't like fixed that, which I did with the dog meds, the bacteria is gonna have a reaction. They're gonna get mad when you start taking the HCl, because that's definitely what it seemed like was happening. And you're gonna have more pain because they're gonna let off more byproducts, which are toxins. There's a certain name for some of the toxins, but I don't remember that right now. And overall, that causes more symptoms, more pain. They'll try to like breed out more to like keep themselves alive, and all types of stuff. Not to mention that like sometimes the breaking down of food getting better or getting like back together can cause more like MCAS type responses, which I think like generally hydrochloric acid can like cause some issues with like histamine that you may just not be able to do anything about. I believe that's also why like in the beginning like it helped with like the interstitial cystitis, but then after a while, like especially the past however long little while, like now it's kind of just like adding to it. But if I take less, or I don't take some for a day or more, I don't take one for a day, and then I just take one like for dinner or whatever, then I don't have to pee a lot, or not as much anyways, because like that's kind of always like been there. Crap, even before like my digestion got bad and I had I used to have the pelvic floor crazy stuff going on, I had to pee all the time. In fact, that was actually one of the first symptoms before any of the other things. I forgot about that. So before the stool crap, before anything else really, like having to pee all day, and then waking up at night really thirsty. That's like a textbook blood sugar and diabetes issue, or symptom I mean. Well, yeah, issue. But I'm trying to think about what else. But yeah, like people will get really weird and guilt trippy and blamey with you when you even talk about fixing your issues. And then of course I know people are going to feel some type of way about me talking about it due to ageism and all types of other things with the situation. But it's kind of like crap. Like I don't even know how I would have kept going in more ways than one if I still had all the crap going on that I used to. Like, but yeah. And I'm gonna put the video in the description if I remember, what the lady talking about how she was able to gain a little bit of weight while still having Crohn's, and how like the doctors, when she would try to tell them she literally couldn't eat, they would just like try to act like she had an ED or something. And that reminds me, I was horrified when I really started to like kind of listen to people's constant comments about my weight, because due to the fact that I was already in like the cash for kids system, I was worried about somebody trying to profit off of me becoming underweight due to my health getting bad and trying to play a little ED game with me. Like I was really worried about that, or my mom like getting worried because of the starvation accusations, and then trying to say, oh well, she just has an ED. But luckily that didn't happen, because like I would still be locked up somewhere now, and I probably still wouldn't have gained any weight because I'd still be sick and not getting the real treatment that I need for all the different bull crap that they gave me, from the hypothalamus dysfunction to the long unmanaged and gaslit diabetes. They would have had me on feeding tubes, and I'd still crap, I probably would have dropped down to 60 on the feeding tube. But anywho, luckily that didn't happen. In fact, I still have a memory of when doctors were talking about the whole starvation thing, and my mom was like, well, she eats more than I do. And actually, due to, especially back then, not being able to break down food and the blood sugar issues, the hypoglycemia really, and just not being able to get energy or make energy from food, going into the, like, mitochondrial stuff, I generally do have to eat, like, a lot to stay afloat. And that was even when I was, like, in the house, not allowed to go anywhere, could barely sit on the porch stuff, and also, like, was too sick to do anything at that. And so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could say with that. But yeah, like, the symptoms that I really think about now, that I really want to get to the bottom of, revolves around the mitochondrial stuff, the hypothalamus thing, if I could figure something out with that, but I don't really know what I would do about that. So, the being underweight thing, figuring out how to fix that some way, somehow. And now that I have my bile dosage right, I'm hoping to, like, maybe see something with that within a month or so, but it's still kind of like, well, if I can't figure out something with getting my blood sugar under control, is that even going to matter? Because I still remember something about the glucose trapping fat inside the cell and some other stuff. This will still go back to the hypothalamus, but also just like the blood sugar issues as well. Like the homeostasis, body temperature issues, like all this, like being cold, being hot, mostly being hot, like having to take a jacket off and put it back on and take my socks off and put them back on. That's like just way too much, and it's kind of, well, not kind of, it is annoying. Being cold in places where I shouldn't even be cold, being hot when I shouldn't be hot, off and on. In fact, when you have issues like this, especially like on the old Google before like the AI integration stuff started to happen, if you were like Google search something like that back in like 2020, 2021, 2022, crap, even like 2023, 2024, like you probably have an article pop up talking about what's that thing, menopause. And I remember when I used to see stuff like that, and I'd be like, crap, am I really going through menopause? I was like, I know that's not true. Although I definitely would be infertile, not even just because of the underweight thing, but because of other stuff. I wouldn't, like, be able to carry a baby, not that I want to. And that's another thing, too. Well, no, let me not even go into that, because then I'll put in the description, but no, let me not even go on that irrelevant rant about people's weird, crazy comments. But anywho, what else? Oh, yeah, but I could throw this in, though. I mean, of course, like, if somebody can't even, like, if their mitochondria and other bodily functions aren't working well enough for them to, like, support energy to their self, their own brain, and their own organs to be able to function on a daily basis and do basic things, I mean, of course, they're not going to be able to do that for another body living inside of them. And if they do somehow miraculously manage to do it, the baby's most likely going to have all types of issues and probably be born like underweight or overweight or with some other issue. And that's another thing too. I notice often that like people that have these babies that are born with issues, or people that like have certain stuff going on, they're either really underweight or they're really overweight. So I won't even say really. They're either underweight or overweight, I'll say that. They're either skinny or they're kind of big, and then it's kind of like, it's definitely a lot of parasite stuff with that, like, and leaky gut. Like, I remember there was this one lady, of course I didn't say it in a rude way, but I'm pretty sure I told her about, like, how to do parasite cleanses and stuff, because, like, she had, that, like, where your skin breaks out because of leaky gut and, like, parasites and stuff, and bacterial overgrowth, even mold. So I told her about some of that stuff, and obviously in not, like, crazy, like, rude way, just, like, basic, because I was telling people about, like, different things that I was trying anyways. But yeah, I also noticed that, like, when people will, like, this could be my last thing, actually. People that, since they're fed all this skinny bull crap by the American medical system, that'll see people, I kind of already said this, I think, actually. They'll see people like me, and even people that are, like, more visibly sick, and be like, oh, well, you look healthy to me, or like, I mean, yeah, definitely, compared to my previous situation, like, one of the staff at the Youth Resource Center said when I was in Cali, I just generally look, like, healthier and happier, like, even in the face and eyes. Like, for one, my eyes aren't red from sleep deprivation, and, like, my skin isn't, like, really broken out, my face is clear, there's all that, but, other than that, I feel like it's kind of whatever after that. But people are just really, really brainwashed. And then another thing too, being made to feel like that I was going through medical gaslighting, aside from the whole your mom won't let us do this, your mom won't let us do that stuff, that honestly some of it probably wasn't even true. Like, I know, like, all the games she would play, obviously, but the more I think about it, the more I really realize that, like, those are excuses. Like I've been saying in my Why People Are After You Zombies playlist, people treat you the same in every situation, but with the new excuse. That's just how the medical system and those types of people are, to be honest. And it's like, especially after getting out of that situation and, like, going to the homeless doctor and other places that, like, people would point me in the direction of, and, like, getting the same usual games. Even, like, the different scenarios where I've had to sometimes go to the ER, like, what was that one thing? It was oh yeah, the back thing, like, when the back thing got crazy, and all the games that were played with me, like, with that, like, that reminded me, or really, like, hit the nail on the head, however the saying goes, that, like, that whole mom this, mom that thing was an excuse. The whole advocate for yourself thing, that never will matter. As I always say, nobody cares, you have to save yourself in every situation. But what was I about to say? I don't really remember what I was getting at, but I do. I was about to go into the whole thing, that there's also another side where, like, I was often made to feel like, okay, maybe it's because of whatever all in the world was in my medical records. But I mean, you can't even really say that, though, because at the point in time where, like, last minute, where people finally were like, okay, well, why in the world are you 80 pounds? When I would go to talk about all my other symptoms, and they would, like, just ignore everything else to focus on, well, to fake focusing on why I was 80 pounds, because, like, they would ignore everything else, and just the whole appointment would become about that, which would make my mom paranoid because of the accusations that they had that they never did anything about. And it was just like, yeah, but people are also, wait a minute, I forgot. I was gonna say that, like, this was also the point in time where they were like, well, we don't really believe any of the stuff that your mom is saying anyways, and we don't really think that you're retarded and all that other stuff. So like, when people do the whole, well, maybe it's because of what's in your medical records, which that can make somebody, like, gaslight you more and be like, oh, psychosomatic, which they're going to do that regardless with people, especially if you're a female or you're melanated or both. They're going to do that anyways. Crap, there was even a whole bunch of accusations, as I mentioned before, and on the playlist of me, I already mentioned the sodomizing thing, but also me just supposedly sleeping around, which I don't even know what that would have to do with really anything I had going on. I mean, other than maybe, like, they could try to point that to the pelvic floor dysfunction, with they're pregnant with an STD, getting molested at home accusation, or me just supposedly being a quote-unquote hoe, which none of that was happening, luckily. But for the other stuff, I don't know how that would even correlate. But it's like, they were admitting that, like, they didn't believe any of that stuff, and that they didn't, like, think I was retarded, and I can't even remember, like, most of the 20 plus labels. But also the thing was that, like, majority of those things weren't in the medical system anyways. They were just, like, word of mouth stuff with my mom and her boyfriend especially, so there's also that. But then another thing that was really telltale was getting out that situation and going through the same games and then some, while having nothing in the medical records. And just, like, a whole starting over, pretty much. Like, nobody could play the game. Well, you're supposedly retarded, so we don't know if we can trust that you're saying your back hurts or whatever, even though, like, at that point in time when the whole back thing happened, before I was told the DDD thing, I had, like, visible and fillable, like, lumps going on, whatever in the world all that was. So it's kind of like the advocate for yourself thing, like, they're trying to unalive you because they're trying to unalive you. And the more, like, well, I don't know what I was about to say. That wasn't about to make sense. But once getting out the situation and being reminded of how the medical system is to people, being reminded of how the medical system was like before I started going through the Cash for Kids system, before I moved in with my mom at 12, it's like it's all the same, actually. And, like, I generally don't think I could ever go to any mainstream medical professional about anything and not have a whole bunch of games played. And then I think that's pretty much it, because this is really long. But yeah, so I'm really glad in all the progress I've made, but I really want to get to the bottom of the last couple things with the hypoglycemia, the weight gain issue, the homeostasis, especially the dysautonomia and the POTS type stuff, and even the MCAS going along with the IC bladder pain issue stuff. Like, especially if I could figure something out about the iatrogenic brain damage and the POTS dysautonomia type stuff, because, like, those symptoms are really, like, debilitating. I feel even more so than, like, the other things that I still have left, the other few couple things, because it's like just sometimes not being able to really see. This is, like, aside from the blood sugar thing, not related to that. Like, just sometimes, like, having blurry vision, or, like, not being able to sit down too long, not even being able to function while living inside of a building, because, like, stuff with circulation and the building chemicals and the white walls, and spending a lot of time sitting or laying down when you're indoors. I can't, like, do any of that. Like, staying indoors, I can't even function and get up in the morning or even really go to sleep at night. And that's another reason why, which I didn't know at the time, that's another reason why, aside from getting out the abuse, so many things cleared up just from, like, getting out and being outside 24/7 full time. But I would definitely really want to do something about that, because it's just, like, really debilitating to, like, just be dizzy and confused and limbs going numb and all types of stuff, which I guess, like, the circulation can also be connected to the dysautonomia, but the circulation issues also heavily stem from the diabetes untreated, which, I mean, even, like, the IC, I feel like, not even I feel like, it's also a big part of, like, the nerve damage from all the years of the high A1C, high blood sugar, while being told about it, but never being told what the A1C and stuff actually meant, from mid-12 when I was forced on the drugs to early 14. But yeah, so, and then, as I mentioned before in some video well over a year ago, SIBO and stuff can also come from long unmanaged diabetes and lack of bile flow, and of course, like, the low stomach acid and gut motility issues, because the bacteria and stuff builds up because the food is fermenting and not breaking down, and the pathogens on the food and stuff aren't being taken out. Okay, whoops, last thing I forgot. So, aside from the whole what are your credentials, or you just need to advocate for yourself and stop trying to play dangerous games and act like you can fix something and take in stuff when you don't even know what it is. Aside from that, there's also, like, certain types of, like, weird Jezebelic type people that they often love to, like, have people listen to them about their issues, but then when you need to talk to them, they don't want to listen and they don't care. But those types of people also love to do this, like, oh, well, maybe you just have fake tissue disorder type stuff, and it's like, well, for one, you see that, like, I'm visibly, like, sick, and like really thin, so there's also that. Even in places where like this was less normalized, and like a lot of people are into like working out. There's this one lady who like a lot of like just being intimidated by me, which I mentioned before, and so like she would like throw a lot of slick shots. And I remember one time she said something about like my arm or elbow or something being like really bony, and I was like, you make these like really rude, crazy comments, but you know that like I'm sick as well. And then of course, to make herself feel better about a comment that should have never been made, definitely not the way she made it and for the reason she did, to just like throw a jab to make herself feel better, she was like, well, I mean, you know, if you're not sick, you're fine, and you know, you look fine, and that's just how you are, and you're just like, you look good and all that bull crap. And it's like, you can't even really just play that little mind game to try to make yourself feel better about not only just like even making that comment in general, but also making that comment about somebody that you know has health issues and is sick. And crap, I still remember how like in the little 3 months of school I went to, some of the classmates and students thought that I had cancer. I remember this one girl had asked me, how'd you get sick? And of course, at that point in time, even though I was way worse and that was like in the thick of everything, I just was thinking, well, I mean, I'm not even really sick, am I? Because I still didn't even really realize how bad I actually looked. And I mean, it still doesn't really click, which is a good thing. But then, like, I know some teachers thought that I had leukemia or something. Also because of me, like, falling asleep all the time and always being, like, sleepy and hungry. And falling asleep, sitting and standing straight up, stuff like that. But yeah, so the fake tissue disorder crowd, those are the gaslighters, and you definitely want to stay away from them. Just like I talked about with the toxic positivity people, that'll be like, don't be negative, don't say you're sick. If I wouldn't have ever admitted that I was sick, I wouldn't have even got to the point that I have now in the healing journey. If I wouldn't have admitted that I was sick, I wouldn't have found out that my blood sugar was at 50 every day. So the toxic positivity, they're not necessarily like the full-blown, oh, you just have fake tissue disorder, but they're just as dangerous.